We're looking at the final dispensation, the dispensation of the kingdom. It'll be a glorious dispensation that'll last for 1,000 years. This is our future. When you think about our lifespan in this life, Psalm 90 tells us that we have about 70 to 80 years. Compare that with the 1,000-year kingdom. That's a long time. And then let alone into eternity in the new heavens and the new earth. But truly, this life is, as James tells us, it's but a vapor. It's a little time compared to the time that is still to come. And so the dispensation of the kingdom is something that is, future and something that we ought to look forward to. It ought to encourage us in this life. When life is rough, when we deal with injustice, we deal with sickness, famines, wars, it ought to encourage us to know that this is only temporary. There's a day coming when we'll experience true peace and justice, and no more famines, and no more sickness. And that's what we're going to look at here this morning in number 8, under the man's state at the beginning, looking at the conditions in the kingdom, what life will be like in that glorious 1,000-year kingdom age. Remember, only saved people will enter into that kingdom. So the kingdom starts off with only believers. And then as those believers who survived the tribulation and they entered into the kingdom, they'll have children. So only matter of 100 years or so, the world's going to be populated again with unbelievers. And those ones that are born will have to believe, just like any other dispensation. They'll have to believe on the Lord Jesus Christ. But it starts off with only the saved. Christ will be king over all the earth, and he will rule in fairness, perfect fairness, and righteousness. We will be his rulers in a perfect state. We will be the governors of Gentile cities. There will be peace on the earth, no more war. Satan will be bound for 1,000 years. The barren lands will become fruitful. Men shall possess what they work for. And now number 8, all sickness and diseases will have a cure. So there's still going to be limited illness in the kingdom, nothing like today, because everything's going to be more healthy, if you would, in the kingdom age, but there's still going to be those in their natural body. We don't have to worry about this because we're going to be in our glorified state, our glorified body, so we're not going to be susceptible to illness. Our bodies won't be susceptible to illness. But those in their natural bodies will still, at times, get ill. There'll be diseases, but there's going to be a cure for every illness, sickness, or disease in the kingdom. Let's look at Isaiah chapter 33. Isaiah chapter 33. And someone, for the context, I want to highlight verse 24, but for the context, someone would like to read verses 20 to 24. Okay, so the context makes it clear that Isaiah is speaking of that future millennial kingdom. In verse number 20, Jerusalem is a quiet habitation. Now, when was Jerusalem a quiet habitation? Maybe in Solomon's day, but Isaiah is ministering well beyond Solomon's day. Isaiah is ministering to the southern kingdom of Judah. You'll see that in Isaiah chapter 1. It gives the introduction of when Isaiah is ministering toward the latter end of the Judean kingdom, so well beyond Solomon's day. And since Isaiah's day, Jerusalem, maybe there's been moments, few years here and there, that Jerusalem has been a quiet habitation. But for the most part, Jerusalem has seen wars, trouble, and of course to the present day, Jerusalem is constantly on the news. Certainly not a quiet habitation, to say the least. But it will be in the kingdom because verse 21 says that the glorious Lord will be there. We know from other passages that's where the Lord is going to set up his kingdom, his throne, and rule from the city of Jerusalem. And in that kingdom age, verse 22, the Lord is going to be our judge. He is going to be the lawgiver. He's the one that's going to create the laws of the kingdom. And he's going to be our king. As we mentioned before, that's the three branches of government in our country. Right? We have the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. So he's our judge, the judicial branch. He's the lawgiver, legislative branch. He's our king, the executive branch. That's who the Lord will be in the kingdom. So verse 24 says, the inhabitant, in that kingdom age, the inhabitant shall not say, I am sick, because there's going to be a cure for every disease, every sickness. So, as we're going to see in other passages, there's going to be sickness, but no inhabitant will say, I am sick, in the sense that, there's no cure for this illness. There's going to be a cure for every illness. Look at just a couple of chapters forward in chapter 35. Chapter 35. And again, for the context, someone like to read verses 1 through 6.
The wilderness and the solitary place shall be glad for them, and the desert shall rejoice and blossom as the rose. It shall blossom abundantly and rejoice even with joy and singing. The glory of Lebanon shall be given unto it, the excellency of Carmel and Sharon. They shall see the glory of the Lord and the excellency of our God. Strengthen ye the weak hands, and confirm the feeble knees. Say to them that are of a fearful heart, be strong, fear not. Behold, your God will come with vengeance, even God with a recompense. He will come and save you. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf shall be unstopped. Then shall the lame man leap as an hart, and the tongue of the dumb sing. For in the wilderness shall waters break out, and streams in the desert.
Okay, so here, again, the context is clear. Isaiah is speaking of the future kingdom that we know from Revelation 20 will be 1,000 years. The desert blossoms like a rose. But notice in verse number 5, the eyes of the blind shall be opened. So those who are blind, who are born blind, they will be healed of their blindness, just like the Lord, when he was here at his first coming, performed many miracles of giving the blind sight. The ears of the deaf shall be unstopped. So if their person ends up going deaf for some kind of accident or born deaf, they'll be healing. All they have to do is go to Jerusalem, and the Lord will heal them, no doubt, so that the ears of the deaf shall be unstopped. The lame, the person who is unable to walk, they'll be able to leap. They'll be healed again. If they're lame for whatever reason, an accident, or born that way, we who are ruling, I'm sure, will tell them, there's healing for you. There's someone who can heal your problem or take care of your problem. Just go to Jerusalem, see the king, and he'll heal you, just like he did, again, in the first coming, all of his miracles. So the lame is going to leap, the tongue of the dumb sing. And again, it mentions the wilderness, waters in the wilderness so that things can grow. So healing in the nation, in the kingdom. Look back at chapter 29, Isaiah chapter 29. In verse 18. Someone like to read that, 29:18.
In that day shall the deaf hear words from the book, and eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity, and out of the darkness, and out of darkness.
Okay. So again, healing. The deaf will hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see. What's not in your notes, you could jot this down. Let's take a look at it. Ezekiel chapter 47. Turn to Ezekiel chapter 47. Ezekiel, like Isaiah, gives a lot of information concerning the coming kingdom. And Ezekiel chapters 40 to 48 deals primarily with the millennial temple. And from the temple is going to flow a stream or river. And Ezekiel 47 talks about this. Someone like to read verse 12. Ezekiel 47, verse 12.
And by the river upon the bank thereof, on this side and on that side, shall grow all trees for meat, whose leaf shall not fade, neither shall the fruit thereof be consumed. It shall bring forth new fruit according to his months, because their waters they issued out of the sanctuary. And the fruit thereof shall be for meat, and the leaf thereof for medicine.
The leaf for medicine. Well, why is it for medicine? Well, because there's going to be still people who are going to get sick, but these leaves are for medicine, they're for healing, so that anybody who has any kind of sickness, disease, will have the opportunity of being healed if by faith they go see the king or they take these leaves for medicine, for healing of whatever the disease they have. There's also going to be good fishing. I'm excited about this. It's going to be good fishing in the kingdom. Verse 9 mentions this river that flows out of the throne, eventually makes its way to the Dead Sea and heals the waters of the Dead Sea. Verse 9 says, it shall come to pass that everything that liveth, which moveth, whithersoever the rivers shall come, shall live. There shall be a very great multitude of fish, because these waters shall come thither, for they shall be healed, and everything shall live, and everything shall live whither the river cometh. It shall come to pass that the fishers shall stand upon it from En-gedi, even unto Englaim. They shall be a place to spread forth nets. Their fish shall be according to their kinds, as the fish of the great sea, exceeding many. So along the river that comes out of the throne of God, makes its way south to, again, the Dead Sea, to heal the waters of the Dead Sea. All the streams and rivers there, the Dead Sea, will be healed. So just like sickness, illness will have a cure, well, this river coming out of the throne is going to heal all of the waters, and it's going to cause an abundance of fish to be there. And if you want the hot spots on the river, right? In every river, there's even to the present day, you know, you find a river, there's some sections of the river where you're not going to catch anything. The fish just don't hang out there. Other parts of the river are just in abundance. We call them, as fishermen, we call them the hot spots. You know, I found the hot spot. Well, there's some hot spots on this river in Israel and Judah, and it's from En Gedi to Englaim. That's a section on the river from En Gedi to Englaim. That's where I'm going because I'm a dispensationalist and I take this literally. All of my Reformed friends, they're going to be fishing elsewhere, and I'm going to come with a bucket load, and they're going to say, "What is the secret?" I'll say, "Listen, you know what the secret is? The secret is you have to be a dispensationalist." And they're going to be like, "What? Well, come on." But every day I'm going to be taking bucket loads. And they're going to be like, "What is the secret?" I told you, you have to be a dispensationalist. You got to take Ezekiel 47 literally. So I'm excited about that, even though I'll be a governor somewhere in Gentile territory. But I'm sure the Lord will give us vacations. And I'm going to sure take a vacation to do some fishing on the river coming out of the throne of God. Yeah, Dave.
So men will fish, and people will be eating fish during the millennium.
Yeah.
And you know it says the lion lays down with the lamb, so they're not meat eaters. Animals aren't meat eaters anymore, but men will be probably still eating meat. And the thing about sickness is you hear a lot of people preach and say that the millennium is like the Garden of Eden. Not exactly, right? Because we're going to be eating meat. There's going to be sicknesses. And do you think maybe the sicknesses will be at the beginning after, you know, the end of the tribulation into the millennium, and then the sicknesses are healed? I mean, because I just heard over and over again how it's going to be, you know, sinful human nature in a perfect environment like the Garden of Eden again, and it's the last kind of final lesson. But it's not exactly like the Garden of Eden, I guess, from what we're...
Right, because when you look back at Genesis 2, in the Garden of Eden, we obviously know that there was no sin in the Garden of Eden. And so everything was perfect, right? The trees were perfect, fruit was perfect, animals were perfect, man was perfect. And it wasn't until man sinned that we know that the consequences of sin, thorns and thistles, the ground is now going to be more difficult to work. Obviously, diseases came in as a result of sin. So all of that is a result of sin. So the kingdom age will be like the Garden of Eden in some of those aspects, but it's not going to be exactly the same as the Garden of Eden, because there's still going to be sin, limited, but still going to be sin, still going to be disease, limited, but still going to be there. Yes, we still are going to be eating meat, at least fish anyway, and there will be still sacrifices for, particularly, I believe it's only for the feast of, no, actually, I believe it's here in Ezekiel 40 to 48. Maybe, Dad, you can remember. There are still sacrifices for remembrance, not for atonement of sin, but for remembrance. And I believe there's a daily sacrifice. I'm not, it would be here in these chapters, Ezekiel 40 to like 46, are dealing with that millennial temple. So there'll be still the killing of animals for sacrifices, again, for a memorial, kind of like, we observe the Lord's table as a memorial, as a remembrance. Those in the kingdom age will be, at least the Jewish people anyway, will be sacrificing as a memorial. Again, not atonement for sin, but as a reminder of what Christ did for them. But so yes, it will be like the Garden of Eden, but not exactly the same, because we still have sin and diseases in a limited degree. Any other questions, comments on the fact that sicknesses and diseases will have a cure, the waters will be healed? Eileen?
Well, that was kind of eye-opening to me, because like Dave, I thought once we came into the millennium, yes, we wouldn't have like the sicknesses. I know we talked about the trees and healing, but I didn't think we'd be dealing with some of the same things we're dealing with now.
And it will be, again, the diseases are going to be limited, not like today where diseases are out of control. I mean, sickness is it seems like everybody gets sicknesses. So it's going to be, it's going to be, sickness is going to be not like today. And simply because the environment is going to be very different in the kingdom age. The environment is going to be very different than today. Dad?
Yeah, I was thinking, people enter the millennium and they'll say, where are the drugstores? We have a drugstore in every corner here,
Yeah.
but no drugs.
Yeah.
It's gonna be plants,
Mhm.
herbs,
Mhm.
and leaves,
Mhm.
and that's where you get your healing plus the Lord.
Yeah.
So, all that pharmacy stuff will be gone.
Yeah. Not only do you have drugstores in every corner, you have urgent care facilities on every corner. I mean, so many hospitals, and yeah, that's you're not going to need those in the kingdom. Yeah. Kathy.
But as you said before, that is for those in their natural bodies,
Right.
not for us.
Correct. So yeah, even though there is going to be sickness, we need to remind ourselves we're not going to have to deal with that. Only those in their natural bodies will still have to, and again, it's going to be very limited, even those in their natural body. Blake?
In verse 10 about fish, the idea about eating fish,
Mm-hmm.
would you infer from that that also includes beef and chicken, or would it just be fish?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's no indication that I know of where meat is eliminated. Obviously, fish is going to be included here. Otherwise, why would you have fishers casting their nets if you're not planning to eat? I mean, those aren't going to be going to the animals because the animals, as we're going to see, are going to go back to being herbivores. So fish is definitely going to be a diet. So why wouldn't red meat be still a part of man's diet? I don't see why not. But maybe it's just fish, because the animals are going to get changed to being herbivores. Maybe red meat will be eliminated, but we know fish is going to be for sure. Angelo and then Dave.
I imagine that the food will be like clean, like the fish won't have mercury in it.
Right. Right.
Or the animals won't have injections of all sorts of things or whatever.
Right. Which is where, some anyway, diseases and sickness even come from, is meat being contaminated, fish, because of the different chemicals and stuff in it, because the waters are dirty. That's going to be eliminated in the kingdom. All the waters are going to be healed by this river, and I would assume that's going to be the case all over the world, where you're going to have clean water, so you're not going to be dealing with the junk in rivers today, in lakes today, oceans. It's all going to get cleaned up by the Lord. So your diet is going to be, again, very different than it is today. Dave?
One of the studies at the Institute for Creation Research was that, when the vapor barrier was gone after the flood, when God said now they could eat meat, is because meat actually has a protective quality to it, and also a nutritional thing now that we're getting solar, cosmic radiation, and there's a whole bunch of factors involved. But you were saying too that you think that the vapor barrier may be restored, but so that may not be the reason. But it's just there's a lot of interesting details that are kind of cool to look at and think about.
Right. I mean, the fact that people live the entire 1,000 years, as we're going to see here on the next point, something has got to change to me environmentally. Something has got to change to cause human beings to be able to live that long. Because we just, we live today, again, 70 to 80 years. Very, very rare exceptions where you're getting it, 90 to 100, people today. But to be able to live like people did pre-flood tells me that something has got to change in the environment, and a vapor canopy to me makes sense. But that's just my own theory. I have heard others talk about that as well. I think it's certainly a possibility. But yeah, just think of all the diseases that we deal with today, and how that's going to be completely different in the kingdom, where there's going to be healing. I mean, everybody wants a cure. Who doesn't? And doctors are trying to find, various cures for things and stuff, and research is being done. But to think that in the kingdom age there's going to be a cure for everything, and it's not going to be a pharmaceutical drug, that you're going to take in the kingdom. It's going to be a natural thing, such as these trees that the Lord plants, puts there, the leaves particularly for the healing of the nations. But I would imagine other things that's going to be simply from the earth that the Lord will have us take, that is going to cause the bodies to live as long as it does and be able to be cured of any illness and disease. I think a big problem today is that we've gotten way away from the natural things that God has put in the earth. And some of our, grandparents knew about some of those things, different herbs that you could take. And I remember visiting several years back the Sturbridge Village. We've gone there a number of times in Massachusetts. And we were going by the garden section of the main farm that was there. And there was a guy that was there. And we were talking to him for a while. And of course, they have some of the, a book of some of the things they used to do in the 1800s. That's the setting of Sturbridge Village, is 1830, of different herbs that were good for this and that and the other thing. I mean, for the most part, we've just, we've lost that. We've lost the, what herb is good for this. But there's so many of the natural things that are good for the body that can be indeed healing and maybe cures for things. But the pharmaceutical companies don't want us to discover those those different cures, and we'll put them out of business. But I would imagine in the kingdom age we're going to be learning about all that stuff. That's why it's like for eternity we're going to be learning about spiritual things and even learning about natural things. Again, I think of Genesis 1. God told Adam to subdue the earth, and it has the idea of figuring out how things work in the earth and make it work for you, which is really what we've talked about before, which is really what inventors have done. Right? They've simply figured out what's already there and putting certain things together to invent something. And we'll be learning about those things in the kingdom age, which I think is just awesome in and of itself. The fact that we'll be able to, the Lord will, allow us to be figuring out those things. I don't think He's just going to reveal everything to us. I think it's going to be up to us to learn those things, which will be exciting. Things that we don't know today that we will learn about in the kingdom. Any other questions, comments on sickness and disease being healed in the kingdom? Okay, let's look at the longevity, number 9. Again, we're not going to have to worry about this because we're in our glorified state, so we're going to live forever. We won't have to worry about our bodies wearing out or decaying. But people in their natural state will be able to live throughout the kingdom age. People will live a long life, is the blank to fill in. People will live a long life. Let's turn to Isaiah 65. Isaiah 65, and someone like to read verse 20. Notice the phrase there, the child shall die 100 years old. That's a strange way of saying that. Like, we don't talk that way today. We say that old person died at 100. We don't say the child died at 100. But that's the way it's going to be in the kingdom age, because 100 years old is going to be considered young. to die at 100. And there'll be some who will die at 100 because it says the sinners will be accursed. So those who rebel outwardly, there may be certain sins that are committed, one of which, murder. Go back to Genesis 9:6, capital punishment. Those who try to take a life in the kingdom will have their life taken. And so if they choose to do that at the age of 100, they're still considered a young person, but they'll have a premature death. But they'll be considered very young. Same chapter, verse 22. Someone like to read that?
They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For as the days of a tree are the days of my people, and mine elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands.
As the days of a tree are the days of my people. Now there's a tree in Israel, the olive tree, and the olive tree can live more than 2,000 years. More than 2,000 years. There's actually a couple of olive trees in Israel, one of which is where they believe it was the Garden of Gethsemane, on the foot of the Mount of Olives. And they believe that was there when the Lord Jesus was there. It's still alive, 2,000 years. They have a couple of other olive trees. We know that in California, we know the redwoods, right, sequoia trees. Those can live 2,000-3,000 years, maybe even more. And so, as the days of a tree, so will be the days of my people. They're going to live a long life, even in their natural bodies, in the kingdom age. So life is going to be like it was pre-flood when we read in Genesis 5, so-and-so lived to 950 years and died. Right? Methuselah was the longest, the oldest, at least recorded, 969 years, and he died. So that's going to be what life will be like in the kingdom as far as people living nearly the whole length, if not the whole length, of the kingdom age. Okay, and finally, Michelle?
I just thought it was interesting how it says it will be the days of my people.
Mm-hmm.
Is that specifically referring to longevity of life with only those who are saved, only those who are considered righteous, or will there be a difference? I know there will be curses and people who will, have sins that will be, the punishment will be death.
Right.
Is that specific towards chosen to be elect?
Right. When in the Old Testament, when those words are used, my people, when God uses that, my people, he's referring to the Jewish people. So if we want to look at that in the strict sense, he would be referring to the Jewish people there. But I would assume that would include at least all the saved, all those who get saved in the kingdom, that are born sinners and then receive Christ. Whether there's going to be a difference between the saved as far as them living longer than the unsaved, I don't know. But yeah, if you want to take my people in the strict sense, he would be specifically referring to the Jewish people there. Any other questions on a long life? I wanted to get to the last one here, 10, but we're kind of out of time, and I need the choir to get downstairs for a quick rehearsal. But next time we're going to look at the nature of animals that will change. This is another thing that's going to be exciting in the kingdom age, that all animals will go back the way they were in the Garden of Eden. They're all going to become herbivores. Not going to attack each other, animals attacking animals or animals attacking human beings. That's not going to exist in the tribulation. And I'm looking forward to that because, there are some animals today that I wouldn't go near. I wouldn't go near today, but I think they're beautiful creatures. One, the grizzly bear. I'm not going to go near a grizzly bear today. But in the kingdom, boy, I'd like to get up close to a grizzly bear in the kingdom age. A lion, I think a beautiful creature. I'm not going to go near a lion today. And whether or not the Lord is going to restore some of what supposedly are extinct animals, I kind of, again, my own theory, my own opinion, think that the extinct animals the Lord is going to bring back. I personally think there's going to be dinosaurs in the kingdom age. I think there are still dinosaurs presently today. There's certainly been sightings of them in Africa, in some of these jungle places where these tribes have drawn sketches of what they have seen, and they have drawn pictures of dinosaurs. So I think they are still existing in some parts of the world that man just doesn't live and isn't at. But as far as like some of the dinosaurs that we're impressed with, like T-Rex and Brontosaurus, those maybe have gone extinct. Whether the Lord will restore those, bring them back somehow, he may very well be. But can you imagine, going a T-Rex in the kingdom? You're not going to have to run from T-Rex in the kingdom. Beautiful creature, a Brontosaurus, or like what Job's are, a Leviathan, this sea monster, as well as Behemoth. I don't see why the Lord wouldn't restore those back in the kingdom. So I think when we talk about the nature of animals changing, just to be able to get up close to these animals, have them all back, the so-called extinct animals, is going to be, I think, a wonderful thing. But we'll look at that next time, look at a few references there that deal with that. Let's close in a word of prayer. Father, thank you for this record that you've given to us of the kingdom age. There's much information, particularly in the major and minor prophets. We long for the day when we'll be able to live in that kingdom age as we live in this world and just see things deteriorating and just life not being pleasant, as we just see diseases and sickness and war and all around us, and yet when we read about life in the kingdom, we look forward to that. We know that it's our future. We know that one day it'll be here. Until then, help us to be encouraged, to keep on keeping on, to keep our focus on the eternal things, not on the things that we see here. And we'll thank you in Jesus' name, amen.